Philadelphia. I'm Bruce Buffer. It's time for the Anthony Gorgano Show.
Oh, God. Well, I would say good morning, but it is not a good morning across the Delaware Valley. I'll say a good day to you. I hope everything is good in your world. In our sports world, not good. Not good. I've eulogized many, many seasons during my career here in Philadelphia, my hometown. This is one of the worst. This is one of the worst ones that we've had to endure, if only because of this story. And the story began in spring training. Welcome. This is the Anthony Gargano Show, and we're presented by TrueMark Financial Credit Union. Go to TrueMark.com/PHLY. You'll find out the credit union difference. Story began in spring training. There was a lot of hope after the Arizona series, the debacle, which left the Phillies losing a Game 7 of the NLCS as they tried for a return trip to the World Series. We knew this team was good. We thought that this team was poised to make a run. And it did for the first 4 months of the season. They peaked the first 4 months of the season. You remember those late April, May, early June nights at Citizens Bank Park? It was astounding to me because never has baseball been celebrated the way it was during those moments, early season moments at Citizens Bank Park. There was singing. There was that playoff October vibe. Problem, we peaked in the spring. By the time the fall came, it was issues. There were the issues that began on a fun trip to London. And it all went downhill from there. And it's odd because you expect them to go through a funk, and they did. And they got out of it. But I don't know if it's layoff. I don't know if it's construction of the roster. I don't know if it's just baseball. But this series from the Mets, with the Mets, it had a bad vibe going into it just because of the matchups, because of the Mets' left-handed pitching, and the Phillies' glaring weakness of being impatient at the plate, of not grinding out at bats, and it just all manifested itself. The shocker was how bad the bullpen was in the 4 games in the series. But the lineup, that was the death knell. Ultimately, the Phillies survived yesterday because Ranger Suarez gutted out a performance. I mean, God bless him. Dancing through raindrops. Gets out of a bases-loaded jam in the first. Gets out of a bases-loaded jam in the second. Somehow is able to preserve a 1-0 lead. Somehow, Ranger gutted one out. Gets you into the 6th inning. Phillies had multiple chances to try to tack on runs. Once again, they faced a Mets lefty who confused them. Not with great stuff, but with off-speed stuff, but with guile. And the problem with the Phillies lineup, again, just like in Arizona in Game 6 and 7, is that they fall prey to guile every time. If it's pure stuff, they'll hit it a country mile. But if it's guile, they got nothing. And you saw it yesterday. You saw it throughout this whole series. In fact, some of the gory details from this series with this lineup. To start the inning, they were 3 for 28 with leadoff guys. 3 walks, 2 hit batsmen, and the home run that led off the series. Doesn't that feel like a long, long time ago when Kyle Schwarber, in the first at bat in Game 1 at Citizens Bank Park, goes yard. a Schwarbaum to start the series. I mean, if anything was akin to what I saw in 2002 when the Eagles played the Buccaneers and we were all going to San Diego for the Super Bowl, when the opening kickoff by Brian Mitchell was taken deep into Tampa Bay territory and Deuce Staley followed with a touchdown. And then a turnover, an interception by Troy Vincent, and then a 10-0 lead. Well, a 10-0 lead in an NFC Championship game was akin to a 1-0 lead in this division series of Game 1 after a Schwarbaum. And it, just like in that game, the entire series went downhill from there. Yeah, they won Game 2, somehow squeaked by. But this entire series was a bloodletting. It was one of the most unenjoyable October experiences that we've ever had. Watching them hit was painful. Watching them try to get something started was both excruciating and laughable because they could never get anything done. After the Schwarbaum, 2 for 28, 3 walks, 2 hit batsmen to start off innings. They struck out 38 times in the 4 games. 8 in Game 1, 11 in Game 2, 8 in Game 3, 11 last night. The culprits, Trey Turner, with that contract that could solve the national debt, is an abysmal 3 for 15, 3 for 15, with no extra base hits. Nothing. I mean, he got on base before the Bryce home run and in the rally in Game 2, but that was it. He gave you nothing. I mean, spiritless. He's your 2-hole hitter, and he is being paid a ridiculous sum of money. And I never like to bring contracts into it, but this one appears to be an albatross. This one, you got to throw in the guy's face because you got to get more. You got to get something out of Trey Turner. Have to get something. And God loves Schwarber, and we all know we love him. But jeez, after that Game 1, he's an 0 for 11. 0 for 4 yesterday. Boom, wrapped in a pretzel. Look what he did, right? Had the 1 hit. He's 1 for 13. Stott, 2 for 11. It just goes on and on and on. And then you have JT Realmuto, who, I don't know. I mean, we talked about fresh legs because he was injured a lot of the year. We know the catching takes its toll. He's a great defensive catcher, but he buries you at the plate. Just absolutely buried you. 0 for 11 with JT. Chance after chance squandered away. And yeah, listen, the bullpen was bad. I mean, no doubt. Right? No doubt. And I did not have a problem with bringing Estevez in that situation, ultimately giving up the game with the Lindor grand slam. I didn't have a problem with it. You got stuck. You got the bases loaded, right? Nobody out. And you're stuck. You need strikeouts. You got the top of the Mets lineup up, the most dangerous portion of that team. And you need strikeouts. Well, I'll bring my guy in and throws 100 and pray. Lindor hit into the night, and that was that. But they didn't lose because of that. They lost because they could not hit. Whether it's hitting season like Charlie says or hitting like Larry Boa says, they did nothing of the sort. It was complete self-destruction. That's right, Tooch. Self-destruction. Headed for self-destruction. That's who they were this entire series. And it's amazing because when Pete Alonso hits that home run against Milwaukee, it doomed the Phillies. The Mets' magic continued, and the Mets lefties were a bad matchup for him. A team that just could not hit, whether it was Minaya, Quintana, Peterson out of the pen. They just couldn't hit Guile. And it's sad. And, it's a disappointing for the fan base who love Red October. Yeah, I feel bad for Bryce in the sense that, he's a great superstar. He's a great ambassador for baseball. There's no quit in Bryce Harper. And Nick Castellanos had a terrific series. But that was it. I mean, that's two. Everybody else has blood on their hands. And this fan base is there through thick and thin. And the cycle of Philadelphia sports continues to turn. Yeah, we approach the Eagles on Sunday, hoping that they can get their season turned around after the bye. And the Sixers and Flyers soon will get started. Flyers tomorrow night, Sixers in a couple weeks. And, we're Philadelphia fans. So we're the rat in the wheel. And we just keep going. That's what makes us beautiful. That's what makes us care. There's no quit in these fans. Good morning, my boys. JP, John Zapata, VG, Violations Greg. Oh, my God.
Let's go Flyers.
Let's go Look at your face, VG. It embodies the way I think we all feel.
It is brutal. And there you had two moments that just capture everything. So it was the sixth inning, first and second they got with one out, nothing.
Yeah, nothing.
Harper leadoff double.
I know.
Can't get them home. Ninth inning, first and second, no outs. They don't even get a run.
And it's funny.
My boy came up, Cody, choked. I was like, one first and second, here he comes, my hero.
Yeah. It was funny because Diaz was there. I started to believe. I did. I felt like a sucker, right?
Diaz looked rattled. He looked like he was shaking.
He couldn't find a strike zone, right? And I'm going, look at this. They're going to pull this out.
Yeah.
They're going to, my initial thought, of course, was that Gallows humor, which is they're going to score 3 and then lose in the bottom of the inning, right? Like that was.
Yeah.
I'm like, they're going to tie the game. Clemens going to hit a 3-run homer. Somebody will hit a 3-run homer. It's going to be 4-4, and those freaking Mets are going to win it in the bottom of the inning.
At least they would have showed some life.
Yeah.
First and second, no outs. Your season's on the line. They don't generate a run.
They don't generate a run. They generated nothing. Every chance that they had, they generated nothing. They came up small.
It was like Schwarber, Turner, Bohm, JT, and Stott 0 for 16.
Yeah.
Against Quintana.
I got your chart right here
Lots
of
of
all
zeros.
your players.
Big
There's
old
my
zeros.
chart of their. It's a gory piece of paper.
Dude,
They
this
got
is
some
insane.
work to do.
Yeah, this is like, so I was looking at Quintana's last 3 starts against the Phillies. This is the best start he's had since those 3, since those 3 starts there. It's just ridiculous. And the other thing too is that Ranger Suarez gave you a great outing. And that's what kills me.
Yeah, he
Ranger
gutted it out,
kept you
man.
in.
Yeah.
You saw the stands in the top of the 6th inning. Those Mets fans were waiting for something bad to happen. And yet the Phillies bats were like, no, we'll do the bad stuff here. And it's just unfortunate that that's how we lose. We lose to the batches. That's how we built this team, the big bats, and they go cold.
Yeah.
Power outage.
Well, you know what it is, too, to your point, JP? It's not grinding it out. Like they have a huge hole in their lineup. And the hole is they're
bats.
bad against Guile.
I give you props. I learned so much from you. You have such good vocabulary. I had to look up Guile to make sure I was on the same page with you. Deceitful, cunning, sly.
That's how those Mets lefties pitch.
Yeah.
Whether it's Minaya, who dropped the arm slot and coming from that direction, that weird direction that kind of hurts you.
Smash someone if I hear
Right?
arm slot anymore. I want to smash people's heads.
I don't blame you. Or whether it's yesterday Quintana, who's change up because he
got
has
good
this
movement, man.
really slow delivery, right? It's like a slow motion delivery, and then he speeds up and he'll hit you with a fastball. So the fastball looks like it's 3 or 4 miles an hour faster, and then he'll hit you back up with a changeup. and it's guile. It's what kills you, right? Is that they can't hit guile. The Diamondbacks did it. It was like the light went off for opponents, right? Where they went, what are we, nuts? Why are we throwing fastballs to that team? Right? We can't throw anything but fastballs to that team. Junk them to death. Throw Fred Sanford at them. All right? Jump, jump, jump. Change speeds, hit corners, hit spots, throw junk, and they're feeble. It's kryptonite, my friend.
Like they're like everyone who goes up against the Phillies now, it's like they're throwing a wiffle ball. It's just like, phew, phew, phew,
Yeah.
phew.
Well, to your point, a sick that I am was watching the FS1 postgame show, and
crazy.
they did the Bugs Bunny thing where you just see the ball flutter, and that was the Phillies just hacking at air, fly swatting, my friend.
And Ruben had a good point. I know we're talking about like guile and cunning and fastballs. Ruben was incensed that they went 4 straight fastballs to Lindor. He's like, I dare you to find, like, you haven't thrown 4 straight fastballs to anyone. Like, the Phillies have not seen 4 straight fastballs. And he's got a point, man. Like, Lindor he's throwing 4 in a row. He's too good. He's going to catch one sooner or later.
Yeah, but again, that's not why they lost.
No, I mean, it's not why they lost. But
Here's
not a smart decision.
I don't disagree, right? And I don't disagree with what you're saying or what Ruben said. Here's the thing, though. If you're Estevez, you go, I'm going to throw it by you. That's his pitch, right? Like, I agree, back him up with a changeup, that would be fine, whatever. But that's, people are killing Rob Thompson because of that. I get it. He needs strikeouts.
I mean, that's what he was dealt with. That's what his GM gave him. This is your boy for these moments in this playoff series.
That was it. That was the moment. Yeah. You had to burn him in that spot because you needed somebody to strike somebody out. I mean, the other thing is, this was not a topper debacle. I mean, I've heard that all day. This was a complete power outage.
This is all the players.
It was.
100%.
It was a power outage of every. You look at these guys. JT was useless. There were times that even last night I'm going, here he comes. He's going to hit a double off the wall. Here he comes. He's going to go oppo boppo and big home run in this spot. Remember when he came up? I think it was 2 on.
Yep.
And I'm going, this is it. Nothing. He's over 11. And he looks horrible at the plate.
He looks
not even hard. The thing that was so awful, right, that it felt like just trudging through the muck and poop, right, was they didn't even square up anything. Not even anything foul. Other than Bryce's shot that was 2 feet foul, they didn't even hit hard ball. Did JT hit nothing hard? Not even foul. Not even his outs. Wasn't like, he was on that pitch. Nothing.
Foul tip, man. Foul tip in the 6th. It's literally you're talking about. First and second and the 6th is 1 out. He strikes out.
Yeah.
Come on, dude.
I mean,
you're not like a 27. Come on, just put the ball in play.
You got to put the ball in play. You got to put the ball in play. And the other thing too is, the Phillies made one mistake over the last decade, and it's turning the organization over to analytics, right? The analytics people had a lot to do with that team. Now, they got backed off. Dombrowski backed them off a bit, right? And again, analytics are a wonderful tool. Baseball has been using analytics forever. They just came in a different form. It's not like, I remember talking to Charlie about this. He's like, Anthony, I've used analytics, and I know in lifetime, I know situational baseball, I know numbers. He goes, but here's the thing. We all want to quantify exit velo, right? We want to quantify launch angle. You can't, that doesn't teach hitting. That's just quantifying it. That's not teaching it. Like when you're going to tell a kid or a hitter, a major league hitter, hey, needs you at 11%. I mean, I don't know. I mean, even your greatest mathematicians at the plate, you have your bat path, you have your angle, right? You can't handcuff them. And, putting the ball in play is important. Cutting down on strikeouts is important. I mean, the Padres, I know they lost last night, but the Padres, the reason why that lineup got well after they moved on from Soto was because of Arise. Because at the top of the order, they had a guy that put the ball in play. They bring up a kid like Jackson Merrill who puts the ball in play.
The whole team puts the ball. They led the league in singles.
They don't strike out, right? Like, they're a difficult team to strike out. The Indians, the Guardians, who are down, had a really good record. They stink. They got one bat in that lineup, and that's Jose Ramirez.
Yeah.
A couple guys, Josh Naylor's all right. Like, they're a couple guys. But they're not. That lineup puts no fear into you. But you know why they won? Because they didn't strike out. They didn't strike out. And this team just live for the feast.
It's Groundhog Day. As
They
were saying
live
this
for
last year.
the crooked number. It is. That's what's so disappointing is that there is no adjustment.
Yeah, no.
Like, as a fan base, you expect an adjustment, right?
Listen, I want to Trey's post game comments. You want to wring his neck. It's easy when you're on the dugout to stay off those pitches and not hit him. But once you're up in the box, it's like, come on, dude.
Well, especially
you make
with
$300 million, find a way to lay off those pitches.
Yeah, especially when he has been so disappointing. I mean, awful.
I'm over him missing on a whiff and the bat being one-handed as he comes through.
No, this is enough. Like that's the stuff you don't hear. I can't believe Red October is the red is
orange,
blood.
like Orange October.
Yeah,
just like that. It's over there. And like the next year, the lineup, like there has to be a different philosophy. You can't just have guys who just mash.
We'll talk about next year. Well, there's plenty of time for that.
Yeah, I don't want that.
The only fix that you got that you can do are the two outfield spots, right? Like you got to remake the outfield and hope that the bats you get in the outfield, you're stuck with Turner. I mean, that is what it is. JT's got one more year left, so he's your catcher.
Yeah,
I hear this idea that people want to move him. That's dumb. He's still a good defensive catcher. He's your catcher. You can figure out what you want to do with Stott and Bohm, right?
That whole daycare, they need an attitude adjustment. They're like quasi rock star celebrities in town. And I think they're a little full of themselves for not winning anything.
Well, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I need two outfielders, and that includes one over Marsh.
Yeah,
I mean, I can't
over Marsh.
I can't try him out there. I mean, I wouldn't give up on Bohm, or Stott. But depending on what happens and who's available, like they're my only movable parts. I'm locked at catcher, I'm locked at first, I'm locked at short, and I'm locked in right field.
Yeah, I mean, like we're also too like obviously like, we have like this is the playoffs. Like there's stars on every team, but where's the pesky guys for us? Like, where's the Gurriels here, right? Like, where's the Vientos? Like, we didn't have any pests in this. And
Vientos is great.
Vientos is a great player.
Winker is more of a pest or whatever that guy's. Winkle.
We got nothing from 6 to 9. It's just ridiculous.
No, and in 2, I'm going to go through it. I mean, by the way, here's the other thing. Schwarber gave you nothing after the home run. Nothing. Game 2, 0 for 5. Game 3, 0 for 2. Game 4, 0 for 4. I mean,
it was fitting it went out on him striking out.
I mean, listen.
2 on.
I know they'll love him and lead off and all that stuff. It didn't work. So if it doesn't work, I don't want to hear that he likes lead off. If I get a leadoff hitter, then that's off the table now.
Yeah, I'm with that now.
All right, we got lots to do. Cut up the headlines. I know our friend Pat McClune, the great editor, former of Daily News, he has put a lot of sports sections out after a lot of seasons. I was talking about eulogizing seasons. Well, Pat did the same thing. So let's see what he has to say for the headlines of the week coming up. Let me tell you about Primo Hoagies. Yes, Primo Hoagies. You know, it was the other night we had a book party. And Zach Berman, our man Z Berm, has a new Eagles book out. So we threw him a big party here at the studios of PHLY. And to cater it, oh my God, the smiles were everywhere. There was an array of Primo Hoagie trays. They were everywhere, man. People were gobbling up slivers of goodness. And that's the beauty of it. Whenever you're having a party, you got to do the hoagie tray, right? You whack up the hoagies, boom, 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 and you got the array. You want to do Italian, turkey, whatever you like, right? The chicken cutlets, the meatballs, whatever you want. There's something for everybody, and everybody walks away with a smile. It's funny. You see people's faces, and they just smile when they hear Primo's made with only the highest quality meats and cheeses on that incredible, fresh, seeded roll, baked fresh in store every couple of hours. Become a Primo Rewards member. And by the way, download the new app. Yeah, your chance to win free hoagies for a year. And you'll say what I always say. It's not just a hoagie. Nah, it's a Primo.
Absolutely, because man, oh man, let's talk about our friends over at Empire today, because as we all know, we're all feeling down like the floor because of those Philadelphia Phillies, ladies and gentlemen. But listen, we're going to have a lot more time on our hands now that the Phillies are out. And so that means those honey to-do lists are going to come back, right? No more Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night baseball games. So you got time to fix that floor. So why not do it with our friends over at Empire today? And the reason why we always recommend Empire today is that they're only going to put the best, the absolute best in your house for your flooring. And look, they're going to have competitors as well, but they're not going to stoop as low as those competitors. Some of those competitors will offer some copycat stuff, right? Some lower quality things, so you could save a buck. But Empire today won't do that to you because they understand that quality over quantity. And so they're going to put a high quality flooring in their home, the same flooring that they would put in their home. And that's why we love them, because we trust them, and trust is extremely important. So what are you waiting for? Get that brand new flooring in that home here today. Stop staring at it. Schedule that free in-home estimate. And our listeners right now can receive up to a $350 off discount. $350. That's pretty nice, ladies and gentlemen. So right now, use the promo code PHLY. Do keep in mind that restrictions do apply. Visit empiretoday.com/PHLY for more details. So stop staring at that floor. Get that flooring done today with our friends over at Empire Today.
Today, yes, today, a miserable day today. Now let's go to the editor. That's right. Our man from the editor's desk, the great Pat McClune, Daily Newsman. Good morning, Pat.
How you doing, guys? Somber morning. We've been, you have highs and lows, probably more lows, and this one gets, right up there for any number of reasons. Now, I'll offer you to steer the ship as always, Anthony. We can dive right into it with a couple of Phillies headlines.
Yes.
And let's do that. I want to make an effort to boldly try to claim the Rite Aid back in a moment day at some point here. If you need to switch gears, but whatever you want, let's go, buddy.
Yeah, let's start with the lead, right? We always start with the above the fold.
Yes.
Back page. Let's roll with the lead. It was the bats and the outage and the frustration.
And, one thing I'd like to get out there, too, that, you covered a lot of ground and covered it really well in the first 25 minutes, is this notion about ABTM. It's a big problem for me with this one is anybody but the Mets.
Yes.
I mean, anybody but the Mets. I mean, listen, they clearly beat the Phillies. They were much better. That Lindor is a really, really impressive guy. I give him all the credit in the world for jacking that grand slam and just running around the bases like he's been there before. But it's the Mets. And I am not as big a man as you and VG because I'm not going to the Fox post game. I'm not listening to my friend Michael Barkan. The second That's over. Click. I'm out. I am out. I need some time. It's the Mets. Oh, it's the Mets. Jeez. And I'll go one step farther. I hope the Padres or Dodgers sweep them. I mean, it's
Yeah.
the only Philadelphia reaction in my mind. I hope they get swept. I don't want any sour grapes in that. Make it real clear they were the better team. There's a lot to like about how they're put there. I don't know that they'll be rolling up on the Phillies and the Braves every year from now in, but right now they're the team doing it, and it does also bring up the point about it's how you finish, and that goes beyond one of the great assets you have at PHLY. I get something every day from Rich Hoffman's newsletter, and he just talks about after London, the Mets were 11 and a half games better than the Phillies. And somebody finally explained to me what that stupid grimace was there for, because I'm not digging into. I don't care why they're there, but it had to do with throwing out the first pitch, and that they've been so much better since then. And you kind of forget almost how great that Philly start was, but it kind of blew up.
No, you're spot on, and you're right. Anybody but the Mets too, because that's a tough swallow, especially after the Nova Knicks kicked us in the teeth in the spring, right? To now, you look at every time we squared off with New York in any sport except football, we lose.
Yeah, and it's just something. It's not even the players with the Mets. It's just the whole Mets fan mentality, and I just had so much fun over the last couple of years when Cohen was throwing all that money in, and it was all blowing up in their faces. And it's it's just tough that it's the Mets, and it's tough that it's those New York fans, and you get mad at the Phillies even more because they let it happen against the Mets. And I'm very well aware that when it was going to be the Mets or the Brewers, what your instant reaction was, and you were right. You knew that they had a little something going there.
Yeah, I mean that home run kind of bails them out. It just makes them dangerous, and they're lefties, man. I think the matchup they can't hit Guile, Pat, and that's a problem.
All the way through it is, and if you recall, they really made a concerted effort. Well, they learned nothing from last year. There's part of me that was even more disappointed in last year because they were like on fire, and they were just rolling. And all you wanted to do was, you said you wanted Game 5, but you thought, come on, just get it back to Citizens Bank Park, 2 games at home. And it was the same exact way they went down, and they devoted the offseason to not chasing and doing things differently. And they get off to a rocket of a start, and then they fell back in it. And you're right on the money about Turner. It's just that the feeble swings and stuff like that. It's just the whole thing. It just drives you crazy. Now, you and I have been through a lot of them too. And you touched on the one that got me the worst all time was that Tampa Bay loss with the Eagles.
Well, always been the worst loss.
We had packed for San Diego because there wasn't a 2-week gap back then. And it was one of those deals where we always reveled in the fact that the Tampa team's coming up in the cold with Vic, and they can't win in the cold. And the great start gets you going. And, Deuce was loose, and Brian Mitchell did that. And then just the seeing stuff like Juravicius or whatever, that's the one that got me. But this was a tough one for this team, I'll tell you.
Headline number 2, my brother.
Well, the headline number 2 on the Phillies is managing the misery. Now, everybody can kick this around, and I'm not in any way going to be apologist for Rob Thompson. I think he's a good manager. There's a lot to be said for keeping a clubhouse together and having 3 straight trips to the playoffs, but sometimes everybody just loses their mind and just falls back on everything about the manager. I mean, what could he do? What? He had nowhere to turn. Everywhere you turned. If I had one problem with Thompson over the years, it's his. I I like a guy who's loyal, but he's been overly loyal to the Taiwan Walkers and people like that. But he clearly was trying something in the different games. And Wilson, he put in Wilson. Wilson had very good at bats. Wilson hit the ball hard every time. And maybe you could have faulted him for not seeing that Hoffman didn't have it a little earlier, but that was just, you were going to have 2 men on base instead of 3. And everybody, how, let me ask you this. You take the greatest manager that you think of all time, and I'll just put it in. Bruce Bochy won last year. Dusty Baker won the year before. Let's look at those 2 really good baseball men. What could they have done in the vacuum of that series to have affected the outcome? I don't see how. Every arm in the bullpen went at the same time.
No,
The lineup was totally anemic. People were really
I agree.
flailing. Yeah, it's so easy after the fact to say you should have done this, you should have done that. This one's probably open. I'd be interested what the 3 you said. Then I started seeing this contingent about what an idiot he was for not putting Wheeler in. What?
No.
I mean,
No. That's
you're going to win
ridiculous.
the series. Going into last night, everybody's hope, I think, was, or even when they won game 2, was get me back to Philly.
Yeah.
Just give me one shot on Friday with Wheeler, who would drop that stat we talked to last week from 1.04 to 0.81. Now, there was no giving he was going to be Superman again, but just get us to do that chance. Since everyone in the bullpen failed, everybody said, well, why didn't you use Wheeler? Well, it's 3 days rest. You put yourself in a hole for 2 games, and I just think it gets totally out of hand, pointing fingers at the manager, who deserves blame as much as the next guy. But sometimes it is what it is. It's a lineup that can't handle the guile pitching that you talked about. And it's a bullpen that was very strong, that just man to man blew up across the board. It's unprecedented. What are you going to do about that? You can't manage your way out of that, Anthony.
Spot on. Spot on. I said it last night. Joe Torre would not have won. It's ridiculous. And you're right. He did try things. Right? Like, I thought it was unconventional. You know what's interesting is that the guy with the best career stats against Quintana was Rojas. Rojas was 5 for 9 lifetime against Quintana. And he went, no, I'm going to start Marsh and I'm going to start Wilson. And again, Marsh against the lefty. I mean, listen, I thought it was smart. I probably would have started Rojas, but that's not making a difference. But my point is, he was trying to do things. Like, he wasn't just writing his lineup down. I'm with you. And by the way, bases loaded. It's 1 out. You need a strikeout, right? Like, there's 1 out, bases loaded. I got a guy throwing 100. I got to go for my strikeout.
Exactly. There was really only one way out of that, and that he came in throwing 100. There was just no answers. I mean, Hoffman was the guy that would have got you some of that stuff, and he's throwing the ball 50 feet. Those 2 pass balls. It was brutal. Yeah.
No, I'm with you. It's ridiculous to blame Rob Thompson. Ridiculous. I mean, if anything, you got to look at Dave, and I think Dave Dombrowski does a great job. But the problem was maybe they needed to change a little bit more from Game 6 and 7 of last year. Like, what befell them was the same thing. Like, to your point, there's nothing that drives a Philadelphia sports fan crazier than fall into the same thing. Like, you don't fix the problem. The problem was the same as it was last October. And, you got to be able to grind out in games like this. Look at the Tigers yesterday. I mean, that lineup stinks. And they're somehow able to get a run here, move a runner. And, the Phillies can never do that.
Yeah, and one thing I think they really ought to think about is feeding the beast next year. I mean, if you get the starting pitching that you got all season and into the playoffs, and you get starting pitching that pretty much, with the exception of even Nola, was only 2 runs.
Yeah.
If we walked in here last week and said the starting pitching across the board is going to get you to the fifth, sixth innings with 1 run or two, we all would have taken that and said, "Oh, Phillies are going to cruise here." So I would actually think about feeding the beast there. I'd think about getting another arm and hope that Painter comes, and then it's just like I feel about the Eagles. I think the Eagles got to start thinking they got to think about their next superstar on the offensive line. And I think, but because the other things you can acquire peskiness. That was JP's word, and it's a good one. You can go get peskiness and say, I'm going to try this guy instead of March because he's going to get on base, whatever. But that's the other thing about the Phillies that would, in situations, how many times did you sit there and whoever you're watching the game with say, anything but a strikeout here? Just get the ball in. Just the ball and play. And, yesterday we were talking about it, watching the game, and a sac fly. I said, I'll take a swinging bunt. And that's exactly what they got out of Bohm. But at least the ball was in play. Just way too many times over the season that the ball's not put in play with runners on base.
Nah, it's horrible.
He got a last with the Padres. That's what he gives you. Puts the ball in play.
Pat, starting pitching for the postseason, Phillies starters have a 2.53 ERA and opposing batting average of .205. The only one better is the Tigers with the batting average.
That's good enough to win it all, boys.
Yeah.
Yeah. But massive parts when your entire bullpen goes and your entire lineup, for the most part, can't get the bat on the ball when it counts the most.
Was the moment too big for Estevez and Hoffman? They get tight. Were they nervous?
Estevez wasn't tight. You don't throw 100 and be tight.
Yeah.
Hoffman, he gave up a lot of runs in this series.
Hoffman, yes. Estevez, no, I don't think so.
Yeah.
He gave up the Grand Slam. That was it.
He gave up like 10 runs in the series?
Estevez?
It felt like it.
No.
No, he was only
I thought Hoffman was tight.
1.38, but the problem with Estevez and Kirkering is it doesn't bear out in their ERAs. Where it bears out is the inherited runners. They just did nothing with it.
Yeah. Headline number 3.
Well, here I'm going to try to change things up a little bit. After we got done last week, I got a call from a guy, an old friend named Joe Owens. And I was still chuckling from you pulling Damian Douglas out of your ear and where he came from and what he did. So anyway, he called to say he listened to the show and he enjoyed it. And Joe, way back in the day, was the sports editor at the Norristown Times-Herald. And he went on to have a good career. He rose to be a publisher and stuff. And talking about guile, when you only have such budget and stuff like that, and you really want to be good about what you cover and what's important to you. They had a guy who was making his major league debut in Chicago. The guy's name was Mike Piazza. And how was the Norristown Times-Herald going to cover Mike Piazza? Well, they had a guy in Chicago who was itching to do anything Philadelphia related, who would call when Notre Dame was playing Temple or something like that. And he called, they said, well, let's call this Anthony Gargano. And they call Anthony Gargano September of 1992. And they say, look, we have a guy making his major league debut out here. He's related to Tom Lasorda. His name's Mike Piazza. His dad is a big wheel in town as a big car dealer. Can you get over to Wrigley? He's debuting. And you said, oh, yeah, I'm there. Do you remember covering that game?
I do. In fact, it's funny, man. That's awesome. I do remember it. And I had covered for Joe. I did Notre Dame Penn State, which was like a legendary game in the snow. It was an awesome, incredible game. And when he asked about the Piazza thing, I'm like, yeah, man, I'm there. And I got really close to. In fact, I went to dinner with Lasorda, Vince, and Mike afterwards to celebrate. Like they were celebrating, and I tagged along. I hung out for a little while with those guys.
And that's what
to
told
this
me.
day, I still talk to Mike.
Morristown Times-Herald the next day. And what did he get for his probably meager stringer fee you were given? He said he watched the game with Vince Piazza.
Yeah.
He wrote a thing where he sat with Vince Piazza and he saw him in his debut. And I just thought that was so typical of you to go in there, dig in, ingratiate yourself with the father, and just give that Philadelphia emotional part of how you wrote. And it also speaks to how, you earned, we talked about this with Marcus. Marcus earned that column at the Daily News.
Yes.
And you earned the seat that you're in. People can say question all your opinions, but you earned it. You dug from Chicago to New York to Philly. And it just cracked me up when he said, I asked Anthony to do it. And the next day, not only did he do it, but he sat with Vince Piazza. We got so much out of that deal. It was ridiculous.
That's cool, man.
No way you can tell me I'm going to make sure that you don't pull another Damian Douglas. You can't tell me roughly how Piazza did in that debut.
Well, no, I do. I remember he got a hit. I know he got a hit. I don't know if he got two. I want to say he was like he had 3 hits. It was a good debut. Because
he definitely had a double. So, and he got on base a few times. It was a very good debut. Yes.
Yeah, I remember thinking it.
I'll let JP roll in that, but I'm gonna. That's my attempt to get the right aid back in a moment day.
Oh, you got it. That's a great right aid back in a moment, man. That's fantastic. And there it is. Andrew put it up there. I love it. You stole it. Thank you. I mean, tell Joe I was asking for him. That's a beautiful. It's a great memory, man. There's something about it, Pat. I sat with you when I was at Temple, and I sought your advice, and you were like, "Listen, you want to do it? You got to hustle. You got to do whatever you can do. You got to hustle." I remember you telling me that.
You also walked down from the Inquirer and sat with me and said, "I got a problem." And I said, "What's the problem?" I love newspapers, but I got this offer from WIP. And I said, "What is it?" And you told me what it is. I said, "What are we talking about here, pal?" Yeah. So went on. I appreciate that you would think to ask me about it.
You're always my go-to guy. Come on, man.
Yeah. Yep. You and our boy Mike Garofalo, same thing. Always came to ask, and they all, you both took off big time.
Yeah, Mikey G, baby. So headline number 4.
Well, and I don't want to overdo it. Let's just get, we'll be happy to talk about the Flyers, their thing, but let's try to do the Eagles real quick.
Yeah.
And for the Eagles, I'm going to say the headline is brownie points.
Oh,
and
I love that.
Here they are coming in off the bye. Is there any team in the league, with the possible exception of, with the exception of the Carolina Panthers, that you would want the Eagles to face?
Oh my God, it's perfect. It's almost too perfect that it makes me worried.
Exactly. My worry is this: if they're 2-3 after Sunday, coming off the bye, we have major problems. Major problems. This team has scored the fewest points in the NFL per game, and has this albatross of a quarterback whose numbers are like 30th or 28th in the league and only completing 60% of his passes. The Eagles have all their weapons back. We know there's Myles Garrett. We know there's Jim Schwartz. When we did the pregame, the preseason, going game by game, I know you and I picked the Eagles. I think VG picked the Browns, and for good reason. Uncle Frank did too with the defense. But this is a different situation. And if at home, off the bye, against the Browns, if the Eagles don't start showing something where they figured it out, that's going to be a big issue.
Oh, you're so right. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I thought that they were going to pull Watson. I watched that game last week, and I don't know how you could actually start him again. I don't know how you do it. I mean, I would have went to Winston if I'm Cleveland.
And I feel bad for Stefanski, St. Joe's Prep's only Stefanski. By the way, St. Joe's Prep, a rare loss to this club.
That's right, a thriller. LaSalle.
Stefanski, Stefanski wants to move off from Watson.
Yes.
And he's not allowed to by ownership or the GM or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, they were getting their butt kicked. He wanted to show some fight, and he was going to go for it at big time. And the clock was running, and Watson was walking off the field. Like, we're going to kick, we're going to do this. He's like, he's got, there's not many redeemable qualities to Deshaun Watson. Let me tell you that.
Oh, my God. He is reprehensible.
Can't lose to that guy. Can't lose to that guy. Yes.
And you're right. Like, and then as good as that defense is, the Browns defense is legit. Jay Daniels took them apart. Jay Daniels played really, really well.
Absolutely, yeah. Now, hey, look, you wouldn't want to have Jaden Daniels. You'll get him twice, and maybe things will just be fine. But if you were looking for the recipe to try to get it started, it's the Browns and then the next run of games. So let's hope the Eagles, start moving and get the ball going and stopping and run a little bit. And maybe we have some things to be happy about over the next few years, because last night was right up there with one of the all-time channel clickers. I am out.
Yeah, I love it.
Let's hope Nick Chubb doesn't return this week either. Hey, I got a debut Piazza September 1st, Chicago. 3 for 3 with a walk and a double. 3 for 3 with a walk and a double.
Wait, I even looked it up wrong because I thought he just had a walk and a double. And
September 1st.
That kind of puts Anthony back in that Damian Douglas,
I'd say 3 hits.
Yeah, he did say 3 hits.
Yeah, we're going to have to start a little buzz kind of a deal, because this is getting a little scary.
How about headline number 5?
Okay, we'll keep on moving. We'll go then to the Flyers. And it's about, on the Flyers, it's what spells success. Right, guys?
Look at that.
Yeah, real quick, one thing I'll talk about I had very few rules at the Daily News. One of them, the Phillies thing reminded me, because the Inquirer and everybody was voting their conscience. Everybody picked the Phillies over the Mets. And that reminded me of the Flyers back in 1997.
Oh, yes!
Red Wings, everybody picks the Flyers. And they get swept. So a rare rule went in. If I saw that, I'd always ask somebody to fall in their sword. Sam Donnellan was a great guy for that. I said, "Look, Sam, everybody picked the Phillies this week. All right, I can see it both ways." And he would take it because it just looks rough, but that was back in the day.
Oh my God, I remember, because that was one of the greatest things. Like when you got the Daily News and you look up, and the way you did it, for Eagles, for every Eagles games, the Daily News staff picks. And then you would always look at all the picks.
Yeah.
And he was Eagles. Oh, Bucket. And it's so interesting. You're right. Like now I'm thinking about it. There was never a full, a unanimous, that's a great rule.
We didn't have a staff of homers, and it was the other way too. If for some reason everybody picked the other team, you go, "Oh my God, you got to get somebody to pick the Philly team." You just need a little, especially when you let a lot of people do the picking, and everybody has their own integrity and stuff like that. But so real quickly, guys, what spells success for you for the Flyers this year?
Okay, so it's a great question that you pose, and it's only that Michkov is a special talent. I don't want to quantify it in any other way except if Michkov is the special talent that we see. Like, I don't care about how many goals he has. I just want to be able to watch him and to enjoy a rising star. And honestly, I don't care what they do. I just want them to be in games, show a little grit. I want to see some young talent. I want to see them score a little bit, and I want to watch Michkov.
That's fair enough. Last year they got off to that good start, and then Greg, JP, what do you guys think? What spells?
I'm kind of with Anthony. I want to see a lot of finesse. I want to see some skill, some speed. I mean, if they make the playoffs or whatever, I'm not too worried, but I just want to see a different direction of some actual finesse and speed.
Well, I mean, I think that you're going to see a lot of what we saw last year. Obviously it was a team that was very physical. That's what you saw. Obviously, they need to improve upon on the power play. That was a big part of why they drop a lot of points. But they have to knock on the door in the playoffs again, because you had 87 points last year. You were 2 points out of a playoff spot. I mean, if you beat the Cavs on the final game, you might be talking about a playoff spot. So they need to be knocking on the door. It's pretty much the same team plus the 2 young kids.
So you're looking at knocking on the door of the playoffs.
Yeah, I think they have to knock on the door again.
How about you, Pat?
Well, I get that. It'd be very cool if they got in. I looked at both FanDuel and BetMGM, and the numbers. FanDuel would have them 13th in the conference with their odds now. They have them at 7,500. BetMGM has them like 22nd in the league. So nobody's expecting it, but they're going to reach that point soon, though. How soon is it that they have Michkov? And yes, you're going to be able to do that, and they're doing it the right way. You got to go down low before you can bring back up. And they're probably one of the younger teams in the league. So you can have some patience, but I think you need to show at least improvement. And it'd be great if they could sneak in. But I get it.
All right, I'll give you an analogy. I'll give you a Sixer analogy. This is the first year of Simmons. We were looking at Simmons. Hopefully, Michkov is legit. But when Simmons, I just was interested in watching him, and he was good back then. Like, he was interesting to watch. So I almost feel now they're better around him. Obviously, the Sixers were dregs, but we're entering like a process. So I still think my expectations won't be wins and losses until the 3rd year of Michkov. And then I want a goalie. I want a true number 1 line. Like, you got to give him time. We want them to build it right. And Jonesy just took over, and Briere. And so you got to give him a chance to build it correctly. And that means a little patience.
I think that I get that, and some of that is born in the fact that the other 3 teams are up there, so you can allow for a good team moving up. But I worry about the Phillies, that the feel-good notion of them, after the 3rd time, people are going to start to be, it's tough with baseball. You got to go through spring training and a whole year to get back to the playoffs, and that just makes it all the more disappointing.
And do you guys think that part of there was an added pressure, like almost from the beginning, right? Like, they were 2 games in the World Series. That was going to be their World Series. You got the owners saying, I want my trophy back. And it's like they played each game like they were trying to win a World Series in one playoff game.
Yes, and you just didn't think that last year you really thought they were going to win it all. This year going in, I'm not sure I had that feeling, but please get me through the Mets. And we didn't get that.
Yeah.
I'm betting right now on Parks Casino. Bet the Flyers make the playoffs plus 185. Just bet it. And I also want to add, I think part of success would be Tortorella gone.
Really?
I don't think he's the guy to bring them into the future. I don't. I think we get past him, the sooner the better.
Knocking on door on Cups, I don't think he's the coach. But I think for right now, setting the culture with the youngsters, I think he's the coach.
Yeah, all right. Well, it sounds good. Pat, as always, I love this segment. You're the greatest. You're such a treasure to Philadelphia, buddy.
Okay, boys.
I don't know
better
about
days.
I don't know about that LaSalle hoodie, but all right.
They beat the Prep. It was a thriller. They beat the It was unbelievable. That was a great game.
All the better I came back from that miserable game one that VG and I attended. Got
Oof.
home, slapped on that Bob Long Sports on YouTube, and saw the 4 overtimes.
Yeah.
Nice.
It was incredible. We love you, buddy. Thanks, pal.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Pat.
The great Pat McClune from the editor's desk, which we love. Coming up, come. You can say it louder. What do we got?
We have Brad, and then Kevin Nagandi after Brad.
Okay, we got Brad. Let's go real quick.
We'll
to
do
Brad,
a quick hit,
and then we'll do our little commercials. You know what? It's funny. Brain. Let's just go right to Brain. Get his quick thoughts. He's traveling, and then we'll find out who he likes for the football game tonight and the rest of the weekend. Brain, good morning.
Hey, buddy, how are you? Better
Are you
days,
land?
unfortunately.
Are you out? Where you at? In Phoenix?
Yeah, I'm at my buddies. I'm in Phoenix. I had before I'm going to Vegas, meeting my son today. But I met my buddy here in Phoenix. I had to meet a few friends out here for just a quick stop. Phoenix,
Nice.
beautiful city, by the way. I got to just say something, Anthony. You said something. You guys were talking about Deshaun Watson, and it made me think. I'm like, and then you said Ben Simmons. Because I was trying to think with Deshaun Watson, has there ever been an athlete that didn't have a catastrophic injury that fell off like Deshaun Watson? And then you said Ben Simmons. I don't know. I know he got injured, but I don't know if it was catastrophic. I'm just saying that's the only guy I could ever think of that was at that high of a level that just became that, just like Ben Simmons. Like
I know.
those are the two.
I know.
I've never seen a fall from grace, but yeah, but a tough day yesterday. Obviously, I was able to watch the Phillies game, and
awful.
Yeah,
Brad,
just-
we're picking up the pieces.
I really thought they were going to be able to score some runs off of a very mediocre Quintana. They weren't able to. It just wasn't like they deserved to lose. That's the only thing that was. I use the word good loosely, but it wasn't. This wasn't a woulda, coulda, shoulda series to me. They got outplayed. They got outplayed in every way.
They
The
couldn't
bullpen
hit.
didn't get it done. They couldn't hit. And that was the only thing I'll take out of that. Maybe you say to yourself, okay, they know what they need to do in the offseason because they couldn't hit. And I actually think, Anthony, it's harder now to get good hitting than it is good pitching. I think this landscape of baseball has actually changed with all these relievers coming in throwing 162 miles an hour. It's become, look what the Tigers have done, the Guardians on these. Every bullpen comes in. You never score off these bullpens now, unless, of course, you're the Phillies, then you score off their bullpen. But outside of that, these bullpens have become so hard to score on. I think finding good hitting guys is more of a premium, and it's harder to. It's actually become harder. It used to be pitching. Pitching was the adium that everyone wanted to face, but now I feel like every pitcher comes in as good. There's not many free rides anymore where you face a Taiwan Walker and you know you're going to score your 5 runs off him. It just doesn't seem like it's like that anymore. I don't know if you agree.
Yeah, I do agree. Brain is the ambassador of BetPark's online sportsbook casino app. No, I do. Listen, I feel you. But they're going to have to do something dramatic. Shake up. They need to shake up. They need to shake things up.
Financially, though, Anthony, are they going to do that? I mean, because they obviously have the Trey Turner commitment, Schwarber, Wheeler, no. I mean, they have so many of these.
Forget about the pitching. I'd run back to pitching. I may tweak the bullpen a little bit, but I'm running back to pitching. I got to fix the lineup. The lineup was the biggest.
They're short at least 2 hitters, not one. That's the issue to me.
Well,
Like
they're outfielders.
This isn't.
They need 2 outfielders.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this is not just like a one-stop shopping. I think they're really short 2 players. And again, I don't know who the free agents are. I haven't really done my research on that yet, but this is to me a real. And again, the only good thing hopefully it lets them know, okay, we need to address this. And again, in these short series, either you get it done or they didn't. And look, credit to the Mets, they got it done. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, miserable. We'll get into how they're going to reshape the roster.
Yeah.
Who do you like, buddy? What do you got? You got a game tonight. Niners,
I do.
Seattle.
Well, I'll talk about Niners Seattle, but first, real quick, I do like the Guardians guys laying $1.21 right now on the Park site. Look, I'm just to be honest. Anytime that Detroit does not pitch the great Tariq Skubal, look, I think they should lose to almost anyone. I do. I know their bullpen's been really good, but their lineup is so just not great. And I do think Cleveland just should win this game. They have their ace going against. It's going to be a bullpen game for Detroit. Do I think they go 6-5 or better? Yes, I do. I like Cleveland. I think it goes Game 5. Now, obviously, I think they probably win Game 5 if Skubal pitches, but I do think Cleveland wins tonight. Look, this is an interesting game, Anthony, this 49ers game. When I watched Seattle against Detroit, despite losing by 13, me and you both agreed they actually looked impressive. They scored at will. They scored 29 points. They looked good. Obviously, Detroit has a great offense. Man, that game last week, Malik Neighbors, and New York really actually thoroughly outplayed them. The score was, if you remember the game, Anthony, the Giants had a 3rd and 1 at the 1-inch line. They fumbled it, was recovered 100 yards for a touchdown. That was a true 14-point swing. Now, obviously, they got that block kick for a touchdown at the end of the game to lose instead of going to overtime. But that was not a fluke loss. Look, San Francisco has been nothing but disappointing. They have been, you talk about a team, they're 2-3, had some injuries, and they just haven't been able to get those spots done. To me, this game, I thought it would be between 3 and 3.5. I think right now it's 3.5 on the Park site. Lean towards the Seattle Seahawks. Not a game I'm betting, and actually also lean towards under. I think it's 49.5. Lean under as well. And I am expecting, from Seattle's point of view, more runs than what we've seen. I think Kenneth Walker will be more heavily involved. I mean, I bet over 54.5. I think it's going up 10 yards. I don't like it now because it's going up so much, but I think they're going to get more runs, less Geno Smith pass attempts, less passing from Seattle because of how the game script is just gone for Seattle. They went Walker only had, I think, 5 rushes last game. I don't think they want to get that game script where they're just going passing 40 times and running 10. So I think that's why I kind of lean under in the game as well, because I think it's just going to be a little bit more of that than what we've seen from Seattle through the first couple games.
I'm with you, buddy. I could see that. I like Niners more than Seattle, but I it's a tough game. And I think
tough game.
Right
did not bet the game.
Right,
I did not bet the game.
Guardians.
Yeah.
All right, buddy. Listen, great stuff, man. All right.
Yeah.
Excellent. As always, have safe travels. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Don't mind.
You're the best.
Thanks, pal. Here he is, the brain, hanging out. We'll get to him again tomorrow. And he, of course, is brought to us by the Bet Parks Online Sportsbook and Casino. They got you covered for the playoffs and football. We got football back. You know what's funny about we read copy, right? And when I tell you, I could talk about the Bet Parks app all day long. It's our only app of choice. But it says, even if your team doesn't score, there's always another way to win on the Bet Parks app. And it's like, yeah, right? Like, they don't score. It's like they were talking directly to us. You can win all the casino games like blackjack, craps, roulette, hot online slots. Tonight, San Fran again, 3.5-point favorite against Seattle. Cleveland and the Yankees, Kansas City. We both like Cleveland, like the brain said. Birds 9.5-point home favorites over the Browns. 9.5-point favorites. Oh my! Listen, download the Bet Parks Online Casino Sportsbook app. Get up to $1,000 casino bonus back if you're down in the first 24 hours. BetParks.com has all the details. All right. Just remember, you got to be 21. You got to be in PA, New Jersey, Maryland, Michigan, Ohio. If you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Right. Allergy season. It's here, buddy. It's not going
Phillies
anywhere.
are allergic to soft-tossing lefties.
To curveballs and breaking balls. And I'm allergic to ragweed and pollen and dust mites, just like everybody else. And I wake up this morning, my nose is runny and itchy, watery eyes, my throat's itching. I don't wheeze today, but it happens. So if this happened to you, pay attention. This is how you get some relief during allergy season. First of all, sign up for Rite Aid Reward emails at riteaid.com/rewards to receive email alerts in your area regarding pollen levels, ragweed levels, all that fun stuff. I actually had to use the air conditioner last night because open window had me sneezing. So use an air conditioner, shower, get those allergens off you. And they got a bunch of over-the-counter options available at your local Rite Aid. Try a nasal rinse to flush out your nasal passages. You can grab an antihistamine like Claritin or Zyrtec or a nasal corticosteroid, Flonase, Nasacort. And all these options are available under the Rite Aid brand as well. Save you a little bit of money. Still not enough relief? Ask a Rite Aid pharmacist if a different type of allergy medication like a decongestant might be necessary. And you can always ask your Rite Aid pharmacist for recommendations on ways to get relief during the eternal allergy season.
Thank you, VG. Very few people I want to talk to after a devastating loss. My brother from Bristol is one of them. He's a guy that I care because I could channel his spirit. I know he was upset, dying with the kids up there. He's the hometown hero, one of the greats. Our man Kevin Gandhi, ESPN,
Wow, look at him
ABC.
repping. Look at him
And
repping.
that is a beautiful. I look at it and it makes me sad.
Yeah, thanks, Kev.
It is beautiful.
I had all his Phillies gear all laid out for like the next 3 weeks because it's getting cold and shit. I'm just going to still wear it. I don't care.
Yeah, it's too nice. It is too nice. Take us into the Nagandi house last night.
Okay, so Sunday. Let's take a step back. You and I are texting back and forth, furious about how this is all playing out. Game 2, obviously, they had to come back, but like my 2 boys are giving me updates. And at one point, when Harper hit the home run, Castellanos responded 3-3, and they were losing their mind, and I was like this. I was just waiting. I was just waiting the whole time. And then 4-3 with Nemo, and they're like, they're going through the whole emotional, and I was just like, I am so sorry I put you through this whole experience in Philadelphia. And they were like, Dad, come on, you got to watch it upstairs. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm good. And then, like, when it was 6-6, I was like, all right, come downstairs. We'll put it on the big screen. And it was pure joy, pandemonium. But we also knew the inevitable was happening. My 12-year-old now knows. He picks up all the conversations. He's like, we can't hit a slider. I was like, yep, we can't hit a slider. Here's the thing. We're not patient. Like, look at the Mets. They're going to be patient. Every single at-bat, they're going to be patient. They're going to work the count. So last night was pretty frustrating because that 1-0 lead, right? Didn't that 1-0 lead feel like we were dead? BG and I were talking when it was 2-0 a couple of days ago, and it felt like 12-0. We had the lead, and it didn't feel like we had the lead. It felt like we were still down because the Nets never panicked. Meanwhile, we left guys. That 6th inning killed us, man. For Harper to get on second, no outs, and then you have first and third with 1 out, and then the holes in the lineup.
I mean, JT, anything but a strikeout. Like, how pathetic. What a talk about that horrible series. I mean, 0 for 11. It just failed in every spot. Like, you got to put the freaking bat on the ball.
Question, man. Without question. And shout out to Ranger Suarez, showing a ton of heart. He didn't have his best stuff, and he still balled. Still got that extra out twice because Bohm gave them more life, that Mets lineup, with those 2 mental decisions. And, shout out to Wheeler and Ranger who show heart. It breaks my heart that
Even Nolan, I thought pitched well. Nolan gutted it out.
Back, right? Like they ran the whole thing back from 2022, 2023, and never ever addressed the issue. But we all foresaw that this was going to happen eventually in the postseason when you have specialized and advanced scouting. Outside pitches, they're going to swing. There's no patience.
I talked about it all day. They can't hit Guile. They can't hit Guile. And left-handed Guile is their kryptonite. Look at the series, right? You had Minaya, you had Quintana, Peterson, right? Like, they had no chance against those guys. I was trying to sit here and I'm thinking about, how do you fix it? You got to do something dramatic. You're locked into Turner, right? So you can't move Turner.
Yeah.
Let me throw something at you. And I don't even know how I feel, because ultimately I like the guy, but you can't come back status quo, the core, not after 3 years. Schwarber.
What would you do?
I mean, you're going to have to change the face of the lineup. And the only way to truly change the face of the lineup is to move on from the Schwarber. Now, whether that's leadoff or whether that's making a move, because you need right-handed power. And the problem is, I don't really want to do that, and I don't even know how I feel. I have to talk through it. Because if I'm Dombrowski, I got to figure out a way to change something, right? I can't move Harper. I mean, I'm not going to move. I love Harper. I said I can't move Turner, and I got one more year at JT, all right? What other pieces? I know I need 2 outfield pieces.
Without question. Without question.
You also, if you come back with Schwarber at leadoff, you're the same team because you're still top 3's the same. Schwarber, Turner, Harper.
But Ann, I will tell you that the top 3 were big picture wise. Turner could drive us crazy because he doesn't get on base and use his wheels. But those are the 3 guys that I know, okay, they'll find a way. It's all of that. All the holes come from 4, and I know Castellanos had 7 hits in the Mets series. But all the major holes, he's not a 4-hitter, come from 4 to 9. And here's what's mad.
When you actually go into the numbers, though, Kev, and you look at Schwarber, right? We love the opener, the big home run to start the series. And he's 2 for 5. He's 0 for 5 in game 2. He's 0 for 2 in game 4 and 3. He's 0 for 4 in game 4. And you're still, and again, I'm not laying blame at his feet in this weird way, but if you're Dombrowski and you got to change things up, sometimes you got to change someone you like. Sometimes you got to change someone that's good for the better of the team. And again, I'm not saying this is the answer. I'm just talking through it with you because I respect you.
I'm glad you brought that up, though. You said one line. Sometimes you have to change with someone you like.
Yeah.
A lot of, hey, that's my guy on the team. That's my guy on the team. This team has been built on friendships, right? Not performance. Take care of my guy. JT is my guy, right? And phenomenal catcher. And there are moments, but my goodness, there's a hole there. And we always see that hole in October. And it is drastic, and the years are kind of building up here. Stott's another one. Where's the growth? We've gone backwards, right? It can't be, let's take care of my guy. Kevin Long, I don't think changing a hitting coach is going to dramatically change things if the mental approach doesn't change with the batters, right? So you could bring in another guy, but he's not out going to the plate, right? But that's a my guy, right? Turner's a my guy. So these are all things like you've got to eventually say, hey, this friendship stuff is not working. We've got to bring in guys that are going to produce. Would you entertain this idea? Finding a true leadoff hitter, and would you drop Schwarber in the lineup, and then you have Schwarber batting 4th behind, right?
Well, you got to split. Then you put Bryce at second, batting 2nd.
Okay, maybe you move Turner. Maybe you move Turner to 1st, leading off with the speed. Eventually you've got to. I
brought that up. I brought that up during the series. It's funny you said that because the lineup, the face of the lineup has to change. We all know that the bottom half has got to be fixed, right? And you need to fix the outfield. The outfield's feeble, right? So other than Castellanos, so you got to fix the outfield. Marsh, I want to move on from, right? I got to move on from. I got to fix the outfield. But before I do that, I got to look at the table set, how the thing goes. And truthfully, the thing has been a disaster. And it really starts from top to bottom. Bryce is the only one that you could count on, like you said about Castellanos. And as much as I love Schwarber, I got to drop him. I need some power and some balance in the lineup. I gotta have that. Either I move on completely. Like I'm not going to move on from JT. It's one more year left, and he's a good catcher. They got catching in the minors. You stay with JT one more year. Turner's immovable.
To your point, then JT cannot bat 5th or 6th. He just can't. You've got to drop him
7th. I agree. Yeah.
You're 100% right on keeping him for a year, but he cannot be one of those counted guys at 5th or 6th in the lineup. Stop. There's no business batting 6th in the lineup. And just Bohm has been the biggest disappointment after the way he started this year. And mentally, you could just see it. it affects him in so many
I don't
ways.
want to give up on Bohm. I still think Bohm is a really professional hitter. And you know why? He turned into a good third baseman. Yes. Yeah.
This is all here with Bohm. Like,
Yeah.
that's the problem. Physically, you and I are on the same page. He has all the tools.
Yeah.
It's just like, and when he's here, it's downhill everywhere because the brain way of him playing baseball, he starts thinking about every single thing. That's killer, man. I thought we got over that. And unfortunately, we didn't. There's got to be some accountability, man. Dombrowski really failed at the deadline. I mean, Austin Hayes, like, I thought Austin Hayes could give us something, and then for them to go 0 for 3, and then Hopper to say, well, he's a little bit. Well, why the hell did you play him in Game 3? Because we don't have any lefty guys that can hit lefty hitters, I should say. And it just drives me nuts that to run the idea of running it back and they never resolve the issues in the first place, right? Like, that can't happen. You cannot just keep banging your head and running it back.
Well, not now, right? Like now they have to do something dramatic. Like you can't, you have to switch things up. And whether that's dropping Schwarber, like we know the givens, right? So it's a matter of, I'll run through it with you. Like we talked about JT, it's one more year. He's a really good catcher, right? Defensive catcher. So you're gonna keep him. And you drop him in the lineup, like you said. First base, he's the best. I don't care what anybody says. What do you do with Stott? You want Stott?
How about a guy named Luis Ariz, the Padres?
Right.
He's been on 3 teams the last 3 years, and each year he's in the name for a batting title. Like, the guy's a grinder, man. The guy finds a way to hit. That's all he does. Gets on base every single time. And if he's not on base, he knows the idea of, I'm going to move a runner. I know how to play effective baseball. I'm not a power guy, right? Like, some of those things that I thought Stott would be that guy. I thought he would find a way.
Do you want to give up on him already? Like that's the question, right? You're not going to get a rise, right? You're looking around baseball, you figure, how am I going to change my facade? Like, you got daycare, those 3 guys, right? You got Stott, Bohm, and Marsh. One of them has got to go.
Marsh.
If not 2. Marsh. I agree.
And it's hard to right now until we have a list to see who's available free agent wise. We're gonna let go a guy like Stott. But the problem is something has to change. Like,
yes,
hit his ceiling, right? Okay, he still had that big triple, but my goodness, you swinging that ball 4 yesterday in a big moment, man, like a legit big moment. Why are you swinging that ball 4? It's maddening from 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Just everybody knows what's going on.
It is.
Get through the top 3, and we'll see whatever Castellanos is going to do. But 5 through 9, we're good to go. We'll throw it out.
But even beyond that, right? Like even beyond 1, 2, 3 is still a problem in this series. Like take 3 and 4, put them to the side.
Okay.
But 1 and 2 had major issues. Like Turner, while he was on base with in the win with Bryce and the rally in the 9th, he gave you nothing else, and he gives you no extra base hits. Like, you got to get more out of Turner. Forget the contract; it's absurd, right? But you got to get something. You got a dynamic play out of the guy.
Especially with his dynamic skills, right? Fastest player on the team. Get on first and figure it out. I don't care how. Actually, take a walk and get on first. Here's the thing with 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3 specifically, they depend way too much on bunches of scoring. There's no grinding out. It's like, oh, we have 1 big inning, good to go, and now everybody's hitting. And instead of generating and manufacturing runs, we don't have that. We don't have any of that ability. Shoot, again, like you said, 3 is untouchable. I'm completely with you. The first baseman is phenomenal. And I really, no matter what, in a big moment, I will take him over anybody. Because he finds a way. He's still doing whatever he can. He can't knock himself home when he's on second base with no freak outs. He can't knock himself home on third with 1 out. It's the maddening thing is Turner has just not giving up, aside from like that month window, he has not lived up to anything that we expected. Defensively, he's gone downfield. And just get on base, man. Get on base. You'll be on second in a matter of 2 pitches. That's just because you're that good. And it's frustrating, man. It's extremely frustrating.
So let me read this to you. To lead off the inning, the Phillies in this series were 3 for 28. All right. And they were 1 for 1 with a home run because that started the series. So really 2 for 28, just 3 walks, 2 hit batsmen. And they struck out 38 times in this 4 games.
That's disgusting.
Like, that is what needs to change. So to me, everything's on the table except for the first baseman because I got to change the approach. I started off by talking about guile, right? Like, Kev, they got beat by guile in games 6 and 7 at home last year, and they got beat by guile again. It's not like, you're looking at facing Skubal. They're facing Peterson and Minaya and Quintana.
Come on. Like, exactly. You're 100% right. I would love to look at those numbers and find out how many swing and misses strikeouts, too, of the 38. They're just awful. Like, just bad pitching. Approaches to the pitching. I think Verducci had a quote somewhere earlier in this series that the Mets actually thought the Brewers were a tougher out than the Phillies because of the approach that the Brewers have compared to the Phillies. When that's out and the series is still going on, like, that's embarrassing. The league all knows. Everybody knows. You watch the tape of the Astros with a no-hitter. You watch what the Diamondbacks did. Everybody knows. And then they're like, hey, let's just run it back. Like, no adjustment.
You know what it scares me? This whole thing reminds me of the Eagles' offense. Like when defensive coordinators figured out what to do with Jalen and the RPRs and RPOs after the 22 season, it was like, oh, wait, we know how to figure it. We know how to get them. We know how to beat them. And it feels the same thing. Like we know how to beat the Phillies, right? Anything but fastballs. And we know how to beat the Eagles' offense, just blitz Jalen.
And before this year, that was kind of the approach with the Sixers too. Before
anybody but Embiid.
Or Maxey, like it's the same. Like we predicted what was going to happen with Harden, right? Like, hey, we know what's going to happen, and we as a fan base foresee it. That's the problem. Like we foresee it, and we're banging our head. And you nailed it with the whole Eagles thing. You absolutely nailed it with the whole Eagles thing. They're waiting for something to click. And not realizing that you got to be the one triggering and flipping the switch. No one else is going to do it. And it feels like the Eagles and the Phillies, all their whole year so far in the falls, were waiting for something to happen instead of them doing it. That you nailed it. Very much like the Eagles' offense right now.
Listen to these numbers. Outside of Nick and Bryce, the Phillies were 13 for 100, batting 130. 0 doubles, 1 home run. 13 for 100.
And that home run came in the first at bat.
Yeah, right. of the whole series. Yeah.
I mean, and it's true. Like they were missing those extra base hits. Like God, oh my God, where's the double in the gap? Right? Where's the double in the gap that scores 2?
One, man. It's just one. Like.
Kev, we might need an intervention. There are some people down here that think a colleague of yours is helping distract Bohm from his hitting and work down here. So we might have to hire you to kind of sabotage a relationship up there.
Good to see you, PG. Good to see you.
Yeah, let me jump in here. Let me jump in here. All right. We wear the curse of 4 for 4, right? Like this is it. Like my son Massimo said to me last night, because I got to run during the game and pick him up at football practice, right? So he gets in the car, and I go, Dad, if Phillies we're about to lose, right? Like I had the ninth inning on the car driving him from football, and he goes, "I know." So we hear the final out, and he's like, "Daddy, why do we all stink?" Like he goes, "The Eagles stink." He goes, "Jalen Hurts stinks." I was like, "Dad, he doesn't stink." I'm like, they stink. He said the Flyers stink. I said, "No, well, they got Minskoff. Now they stink." He goes, "The Sixers stink. They can't win." I go, "Well, no, it's a good new year." I'm raising a curmudgeon, and I'm going like, what? No, when I was your age, when I was 11, you and I were two brothers like this, wide-eyed, former boy, they're going to win, they're going to win. I wouldn't let anyone say anything bad about Julius Erving or Mike Schmidt or Larry Boa or any of those guys. Like, we defended them, Jaworski, to the core. And my son was just ripping them. They stink. They stink. That hurt me more than anything.
I completely understand. Brandon was talking about that in the car, and he got home and I hate him, Dad. I hate him because we all know it's going to happen. And I think first off, we are surrounded by Mets fans. So my oldest is getting he's hearing it, and I'm like, just tell him up. I was like, they've done nothing for years. I was like, don't listen to that. Don't buy the garbage. I was like, some of these guys are freeloaders. They didn't even know who was on the Mets team until a week ago. So ignore them.
They're more Grimace fans.
Yeah, exactly. Just tell them to F off. Here's the thing. And I put it out there on social media last night. The difference about this loss and this series loss is if you look from 22 to where we are now, over a 24-month span, all the heartbreak. So we're not just upset about the series. It's the buildup of all of the series. And I know a lot of people are going to, what about the Union? Yeah, the Union too. I didn't forget them, but Twitter has a certain amount of characters, and I'm not paying a lot of money. So, and then what about the Flyers? Well, the Flyers had that collapse in the getting into the playoffs. But when you talk about the three other teams having leads in series and then falling apart, big moments, I think over the last 2 years, everything has been carried off. And the one thing that has helped get over every series is we jump to the next team, right? So a year ago, losing in the NLCS, the Eagles, man, they had just beat the Dolphins and they're riding high. We're just going to hang on to the next thing to ride through, right? 2 years ago, after we lose to the World Series, we ride the Eagles wave, right? To the Super Bowl,
right?
Playoffs of the Sixers. And then right after that ends spring training into the Phillies. So there's hope again. So we've had things to distract us. But I think after this 2-year cycle, especially this and how bad the Eagles are, nothing's changed from a year ago. It feels like the same vibes that we've kind of hit rock bottom. Like it's like all the emotion that has carried us through to ignore what we went through has now kind of reality has finally hit us all and say, hey, we also know we've seen this thing before. Nothing's going to change us anymore, right? I think that's what this is.
Oh, and you're spot on. You're spot on, man. Spot on. You're right. You're right. Like it's reality that we can't even kid ourselves to jump on the next one, even though you got the Browns coming up. You got your AJ Brown back, right?
Don't do it.
Your face. I see your face. Even though Paul George is here, like there's something inside me that's saying Sixers are going to win it. Sixers are going to win it. Like my inner voice is saying that.
You know what this is? And this is it. My one cousin actually hit me up about this the other day. He's like, I can see what you're doing right now. You're protecting your mental health, aren't you? I'm like, that's it. I said, emotionally, my heart is here. And it's like, Sixers are going to be, hey, listen, they're going to be loaded. And listen, the Eagles have the easiest schedule from here on out the rest of the final 12 games of the season. They got the Browns. And my emotions, the 11-year-old that you and I talked about is in this. And then the mental 49-year-old health is stepping in and saying, hey, yo, you got to protect yourself, man. We've seen this rodeo before. We also know that same head coach for the Eagles. We also know that they've won on talent. They're going to have any team. We also know that they can't tackle. We also know that we miss Shane Steichen. Like all of those, then all that stuff comes in, and I got to protect my well-being. I've got to protect my mental health more than anything else.
Spot on, my brother. Listen, I really needed to talk to you, so I'm happy. We love you. What do you got cooking? We got a big one this weekend.
All right. We got a handful of big ones this weekend, man. Like triple header on ESPN is going to be great, but then that LSU Old Miss matchup cannot wait in prime time. And let's not forget, you got Oregon, Ohio State. There's just October 12th. 19th next week, setting up incredibly for Texas, Georgia, and VG's Tennessee Vols hosting Alabama. And then the next 3 weeks are going to be phenomenal, phenomenal chaos. I'm here for it. I'm happy I can do Saturdays that distract me heading into Sundays.
Yeah, it's fabulous.
I'm glad he didn't mention PSU, Penn State, number 4.
Well, Penn State against USC, and if they don't beat USC, Penn State's got problems. So, you got to be.
Do we think they're contenders?
I mean, listen, I think they're a playoff team.
Okay.
Penn State?
Yeah.
Without question, they're a playoff team. But we also know the measuring stick, I think, for any Lion fan is, what are you going to do in November?
Yep.
What are you going to do in Ohio State? That's always no matter what are you going to do?
I can't say you're a title contender until you beat Ohio State.
Without question.
Yeah.
How
about Vandy? By the way, an incredible sit-down you had with Jalen Milroe. I mean, just an incredible. I enjoyed it so much. You got so much out of it. You're really gifted. It was a great interview.
And by the way, we've got Austin Genty, the Boise State running back, on, and that's airing, I think, tonight. Either it's airing tonight or tomorrow. I had to catch him yesterday before he took a flight to Hawaii.
Could you send me that? He's a great story.
The number one high, when you look at right now, one at the top, a running back after 5 weeks, 11 yards, is phenomenal.
He's unbelievable.
Stories.
Can you send me that? That's a great one. Yeah, I love the Milroe. That was amazing. And what a story. The Vandy story was awesome. College football has just got such great storylines.
Been great, man. And I think we're going to have us in the next 2 or 3 weeks. This is what I love about the expanded playoff, too. Every week. After one loss, I was like, oh, we're done. No. Now, how are you going to handle 2 losses? And that's what's at stake for Ole Miss LSU. That's at stake next week for Alabama, Tennessee. And shout out to the service academies. One of those teams could potentially make the playoffs.
Yeah, the Army Navy. Unbelievable, man.
It's unbelievable. They can play the American Championship, and then a week later play in the regular season as their schedule game, and one of them could make the playoff, which is incredible.
I hope so. It's great. It's a great story. Love you, Kev. Great stuff. Can't wait till next week.
Appreciate you, fellas. Take care.
Kevin the Gandhi, the best.
Such a great time to be a college football fan.
Yes.
It's been phenomenal this year.
Yes. Let's talk about Parks Casino. I tell you about the Bet Parks online sportsbook all the time, but what about the casino? The casino is unbelievable. We're going to need a mecca of entertainment after the Red October lists. Oh, my God. Parks Casino, smoke-free, my casino of choice, the Excite Center at Parks Casino. One of the many things that I love about it, Parks Casino, this is how you win. Pennsylvania's #1 casino, Street Road exit off of 95, off the PA Turnpike. Beer Garden, Parks Grill Steakhouse, Bamboo Noodle House, state-of-the-art sportsbook, Parks Poker Room. Oh, man, they got it all. And again, they got the Excite Center for all the best exciting acts, comedy acts, and you name it. I mean, musical stuff. How about October 24th? You got TLC.
I don't want no scrub. Scrub is a guy that can't get no love from me.
November 1st, a tribute to Michael Jackson.
Oh, my God.
November 16th, that was very good. Bret Michaels.
Yeah, don't want nothing but a good time.
November 23rd, comedian Steve Trevino. December 6th, Patti LaBelle.
I got a new attitude.
December 13th, the podcast, Are You Garbage?
Yes. I feel like it today.
December 14th, comedian Eric D'Alessandro. Parks Casino, This Is How You Win. ParksCasino.com for all tickets and shows. You got to be 21. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER, JP.
All right, cuz. Let's talk real quick about our friends over at TrueMark Financial. I know nobody wants to talk about finances. I know everyone's down and out because of the Phillies, but let's talk about it because, guys, let's take a little bit more positive, right? This weekend, it's going to be nice. It's going to be nice weather. We're going to have a little bit more free time probably as well. You're probably going to try to head down to the link. I know the Eagles are playing. So with all these fun activities, you're probably going to be using your card a lot. You're probably using a lot of money. So it's good to keep track of those finances. And I always recommend TrueMark Financial and their money management tool because they do a great job of keeping track of your finances. After a long weekend of a lot of fun, things can start adding up. So with their app, you can manage all this, all track everything that you've been spending. They will categorize it for you as well. It's super convenient, super easy, and the best way to keep track of it all. I always say, and especially for all my parents out there, it's never too early to start those financial discussions, create financial responsibility with those kids. And with TrueMark Financial and their money management tools, it makes it super easy for you as well. Listen, security is big. Listen, these hackers, they're everywhere. And when you're out in public outings, it's easy to lose your credit or debit card. So one of my favorite features on there is you can lock your card. That way you can have a little bit of peace of mind if you happen to lose your debit or credit card. That's all through their mobile app. Get more information today. One of two options. Visit TrueMark.com/PHLY. That's TrueMark.com/PHLY. They also have 24 branches in the Philadelphia area that you can absolutely walk up to, ask any question you may be having, and you can start your credit union career right then and there. TrueMark Financial is federally insured by the NCUA and is an equal opportunity lender. Big shout out and a thank you to our friends over at TrueMark Financial, cuz.
All right. Thank you, buddy. We appreciate it. This portion of the program is brought to you by TrueMark Financial Credit Union. TrueMark.com/PHLY. By the way, I just sold Joey, our intern.
A jacket
is unbelievable.
phenomenal.
Yeah, the silver is nice.
Dude, you got to come around and show off the jacket after we got steaks on the line. So after steaks, I need you to. That jacket's awesome. All right. But I needed steaks today. I needed to talk baseball with them.
Little therapy.
This was a tough one. Yes, JP. Therapy is right. Let's welcome the great baseball man from PHLY and the All Phillies the podcast he does. He's tremendous. Jim Salisbury. Steaks. I mean, where do we begin? Let's begin with the lineup.
I'm sorry, Andy, broke up.
Let's begin with the lineup, Steaks. I mean, ultimately, it's what failed them. You could talk about the bullpen, and that was bad, but this lineup generated nothing.
Yeah, they hit like $185 for the series. We talked about it a lot that, this is a team with star power, and you win with stars. And, Harper and Castellanos was good. Harper was okay. But when it comes down to it, they played 4 games. They had 4 good innings in four games. They had 4 good innings offensively. That ain't going to do it. Schwarber struggled. Turner struggled. The bottom of the order struggled. JT struggled. And, when you don't hit, you look lifeless. When you don't hit, you put a heck of a lot of pressure on your pitching staff. But a lot of things went wrong. One of the big things to me that went wrong, and this goes back to the lineup, is, you had a couple great things going for you to start this series. One of them was you had Zach Wheeler in game 1 at home. That's another great thing. And, they squandered both of them that day. And you get a leadoff home run from Schwarber. It electrifies the place, but they don't sustain offensively. They waste a great outing from Wheeler. They waste a great environment in their home building, in their home ballpark, and they don't capitalize, and they lose game 1. And that really hurts in a short series. But, they didn't hit. The bullpen didn't perform well. There was you could dissect this thing up and down for hours upon hours and look at little things that they didn't perform well, little areas that ultimately cost them this series. I was worried about this series coming in because I just had seen a team that really had leveled off, and I had seen a Mets team that was really ascending and had something good going. And, coupled with the fact that this Phillies offense, it's one of its calling cards is a negative calling card. It's inconsistent. It disappears for games on end. And if it was going to disappear during this series, they were going to go home early. And honestly, that's what happened.
Yeah, I was worried. I told VG this. When the Mets won, I was worried about the hot team like you. But what really concerned me was the Mets left-handed starters. Like, I look at this lineup and it's the same story as Arizona. It's failure against Guile and Minaya and Peterson and last night Quintana. They can't hit those guys. They can't. They have a bad approach. Their approach does not work against that type of pitching. You look at what Quintana was doing last night, right? Like, he is about change-ups, changing speed, right? Dive you in with a breaking pitch. He kept them off balance, just like Minaya did, just like Peterson did. And that's what needs to change. Something in the inherently in this lineup, they got to change this lineup because they fall prey to that every time.
Yeah, I think it's because they have a lot of guests in their lineup, a lot of guest hitters. But, I told you yesterday Quintana was going to give him trouble because he's crafty and he's smart and he can execute and he can make you get yourself out. He can make the hitter get himself out by chasing stuff off the plate. And we saw a lot of that. Even Turner admitted it throughout the series. They got themselves out. When they're not going good, they're a really easy team to pitch to. And they're going to have to make some adjustments to that lineup for next year because you're going to have another high payroll. You're going to have, still you're going to be studded with stars. And you're going to have this championship window. You need to support it. You can't just, let it die on the vine. So they got to go out and they got to try to fix some things. But it's going to be really hard because it's a very inflexible lineup with some of these, with the ages of guys and with the long-term contracts. Dave Dombrowski is a hell of a GM. I believe he's a Hall of Famer. But he's really got his work cut out for him this offseason because they need to change the mix a little bit. Get some contact in that lineup, get fewer strikeouts in that lineup, get somebody who's not maybe two guys that are not so easy to pitch to, and it's going to be difficult. He's going to have to show a lot of creativity.
It's amazing because we talk about getting some contact, but they don't have a lot of power. Like after Schwarber and Bryce, I mean, Castellanos is a really good run producer, gap power. I'll go yard. JT is kind of that in a light way, but they don't have, like we talk about power, like it's not like you can even rely on power because they don't have any.
If they're squaring it up and making good contact, I think they have enough power. But, I also consider doubles, a power hit. And, you look at a guy like Alex Home, I think he had like two doubles.
They don't have enough. It's not like, I agree with you with your premise. But my point to you is, it's not like you're relying on, oh, my God, they got all this. They're all, giving you 3-run shots. Long way around. Let's go through it. You're stuck with Turner. He is what he is. JT, you're not moving. You got 1 year left.
9 years on Turner. 9.
You're stuck with it. Like, that contract's immovable. JT, you're going to bring back because you need he's still a really good defensive catcher, and you got 1 year left on the deal. Like, you're not going to do anything there. Harp, you love, right? Castellanos locked in right. That core is where you got.
Yeah.
Now, Schwarber's interesting because I'm not going to pin all this stuff on Schwarber, but here's the problem. The leadoff thing doesn't work, all right? It proved out. It doesn't work. I mean, that 1, 2, 3 sets the tone. You're going to come back 1, 2, 3, 4, same thing? That's the same thing. It sets the tone. You either got to, and sometimes you got to move on from a guy you like, who you don't blame, or you got to move him down in the order. You got to change that.
I will say they've won an awful lot of ball games with Schwarber at the leadoff hole. They didn't go to the postseason
but
10
in the
years in a
playoffs,
row.
it hasn't worked.
They didn't go to the postseason 10 years in a row. They bring in Schwarber. They put him in the leadoff, and they've been there 3 years in a row. So a lot of it has worked. I think we're picking on him a little bit because the whole team goes into these funks, and he was just part and parcel of it. Now,
I'm not picking on him because I like the guy. But
if you can bring in somebody, he's an unorthodox leadoff man. You've won a lot of ball games with him. He likes that role. He can give you some real instant jolts that can result in wins. I mean, I think he hit 16 leadoff home runs.
Your lineup, but we're talking different. We're talking October when you get pitched to.
Okay, who are you going to put there? You're going to have to now talk to me if you go out and get somebody. Talk to me if you go out and get somebody who makes contact, who works counts. Go out and get a classic leadoff man, and then I'm open to moving him to an RBI hole. Yes.
Well, that's what we're talking about with Dombrowski. And if you're going to change the face of the team, of the lineup, that's something you got to do.
Then do it. Then that's an area they could certainly address.
You can't, like, I'm all for. I get what you're saying, and I see the same thing. However, the same lineup that was feeble against Arizona. And when you needed it, the same lineup that was feeble in this series, it starts there. And I'm not blaming him because I get what you're saying and I understand it. But the approach, like when you got to bear down, it doesn't work. And unless they're feeding you fastballs, which apparently they're not going to do to you, well, you got to do something. If you're Dombrowski, that's where you got to go.
It starts with consistency. They're just so inconsistent, not just in the leadoff hole, but up and down the lineup. They need to add more consistent contact makers, cut down on the strikeouts, just put pressure on opposing pitchers. They need to address it, wherever they can in that lineup. If it's the bottom, if it's leadoff, if it's in the middle, they need to address it. I think they need a couple more efficient, proven hitters in that lineup. Guys who don't strike out and swing and hack because they're still going to have hack and swing in there next year because they have an inflexible roster. They have some of those guys coming back.
Yeah, I mean,
Bohm is a guy who's selective and uses the whole field and the gaps.
I'm not looking. You know what's funny? I'm not looking.
He had a disappearing act. He just disappeared the final 2 months. It's really troubling.
It did, but I'm not going to give up on Bohm. I mean,
I'm not either. I like him. I'm not giving up on Bohm.
He's a guy who I like his approach. Right? Normally, I mean, normally he'll take pitches. He'll go to all fields. Like he's too young for me to give up on him. I still think his power is natural and he'll wind up hitting even more home runs.
I'm not giving up on him. He's 2 years away from free agency, and your best position player prospect plays on the left side of the infield, and he's a bat. So, I'm bringing back Bohm, and I'm whatever was bothering him down the stretch, I'm trying to fix it and trying to make him more productive like he was in the first half, and then I'll make a judgment on him a year from now when Aiden Miller's knocking on the door. But
right,
I'll tell you this though, my ears would be open on him. My ears would be open on everybody in that lineup.
Well, you have to. I mean, your ears have to be open on everything.
And I discussed,
but the outfield,
anybody.
The outfield is a major issue, right? Like we talk about, like you got two spots that you got to fix. Like you just can't come back with the sake. Marsh, I'm moving on from. I got to fix two spots in that outfield.
Yeah, they got to get a left-hander who can hit, a left fielder who can hit. Your right fielder is going to be Castellanos, and your center fielder, maybe you bring in somebody else. If you feel like you can make offensive upgrades somewhere else, maybe you can ride Rojas or get a platoon guy. I don't know, but I need a left fielder who can do some damage.
I mean, you have to. You got it. Let me throw out this name because people are talking about it, and he's a guy I love, but the medicals are everything. What do you know about Trout's medicals?
Oh boy. I just know what I look when I look at his year by years. He doesn't play,
No, but I know
season.
if you knew anything.
He doesn't even play half seasons. Look, he's owed over $200 million. Isn't he signed for like 9 more years? At over,
I don't know what he's going, but the contract actually isn't as ugly. You don't have to give up anything for him.
No, they'd have to eat a lot of money. Hey, look, if he came here healthy, I would definitely, I wouldn't push him away, but I can't take on all that money over all those years.
And with the uncertainty, which is why I ask about the medicals, right? Like, listen, if Middleton's all in now, I mean, the one thing with Middleton is he's all in now. I got to figure out, I need something dramatic to change in the lineup. I can't be the same team that falls prey to this type of pitching consistently. That I know about. I know that this lineup falls prey to that. So I have to change the lineup. More than anything. Yeah, the bullpen, all right, whatever. It's the lineup that failed it. That, to me, is the biggest culprit.
Yeah, I agree with you. They didn't score enough runs in this series, and they were inconsistent much of the second half, but it's in their DNA. I think, I told people this coming into the season after they kind of ran that team back last year that, this is a team that some nights is going to score 8 runs and absolutely delight you and be entertaining and have a lot of energy and slug the ball, knock it off the wall and over the wall. And then there's going to be nights they just disappear and they break your heart because that's the type of that's in their DNA, the swing and miss. They lack selectivity for the most part. A lot of guess hitters. So that stuff just disappears at times. And when it happens in the postseason, when it happens at an inopportune time, it really breaks your heart and you go home. But I think a lot of us could almost feel this coming, given the inconsistency they had in the second half, and given the team they were going up against. The Mets pitched them great. The Phillies, a lot of times their hitters got themselves out. You think back to the first half of Game 2, they were getting themselves out. Only for 4 innings did they show some selectivity and pound the ball a little bit. 4 innings out of 4 games. That's not enough.
Well, their leadoff hitters in innings, they were 3 for 28.
They reached once, right?
What's that?
Didn't they reach base like one time? Or? 3.
Well, there were 3. For each inning, they were 3 for 28 for the whole series. 3 walks, 2 hit batsmen. Obviously, Schwarber with the home run to lead off the whole series. But that, you can't do any damage if you're not getting on.
Got to get on the sacks, man. And that's not always the leadoff man, Anthony. That ain't the number one hitter.
Well, I'm giving you leadoff in each inning.
Different innings, but they don't have the guys that work counts and grind at bats. They're a bunch of free swingers. I mean, how many games do we see, Bohm or this guy or that guy, he saw 7 pitches in the whole game. I mean, that's just not going to do it in the postseason because you're not running up pitch counts. I mean, look at last night's game. Everybody says, a lot of people saying Ranger pitched great. Ranger made some great big pitches with runners on base. I don't think he pitched great. He threw a handful of great.
He danced through raindrops.
He had some great breaking balls with runners on base to get out of trouble. But they worked him and they ran his pitch count up. Suppose he gets through 5 innings. Now Hoffman's coming into a clean inning. That might be a total different game. So every little piece feeds into each other and every little piece plays off each other. In a lineup, on defense, pitching staff, it's a fascinating game.
It is. It just I would say it's it's baseball, but when you fall prey to the same thing, it's not just baseball. It's how they're constructed. And that's where you can't come back with the same group. And if that means tough decisions of people you like because they're the only people you could move, you got to entertain that.
And I think they will, Anthony. I think they will because, John Middleton is a guy I'm sure will ask tough questions to his general manager, his front office, and his manager. And they will seek solutions, even if they're difficult to do.
Yep. Hey, Jimmy, hang on 1 second. I just want to thank our diehards for such incredible loyalty. We love you, and we hope you're enjoying all things here at PHLY. The issue is, how do you fix it? Who's out there? Who are you going to trade? Who are you looking at? I mean that's going to be everything.
Can I ask you guys? Does Cody Bellinger or Anthony Santander help this lineup?
I like
Are
Santander.
you interested in them?
I like Santander is good. He's
I
switch
Yeah,
hitter.
look at anybody. Santander, I mean, he's got some big power. He'll be moving on from Baltimore. I certainly would look at everybody, but I'd like some completeness if I'm going to, in the hitter I bring in, and I would love to see them potentially get more of a classic leadoff man where Schwarber can go into an RBI hole. I just don't know if that can happen. We'll see. Bregman is a guy who interests me. Alex Bregman, if you could figure out something there. But
I know where you're going to play. What are you going to do? You're going to move Bohm?
I'm sure they'll list it on Bohm. I still think there's a lot there. I like what I saw for 4 months, and I'm not in a hurry to give up on him. But Bregman is the type of hitter that I think would help you. He's going to command big bucks, and he's going to command years. I'm not sure you want to go down that route right now.
I'm on the other side of that.
Kind of come down a little bit over the last year or so, a couple of years, but I mean, I'm sure they'll entertain all of these things. I guess I would love to see an improved Alec Bohm as my first option. I think left field's a place they need to look at. Maybe they need to think about getting Trey Turner to left field and start over to shortstop, and maybe that opens up something at second base. That's the type of creativity I think they need to think about.
I agree with that. How do you view Stott?
It was kind of troubling that he didn't progress. He didn't build off last season. You want to see your young players who have a good season, which he did in 23. Take it to another level in 24, a year more experience, and he didn't. I don't know if he got tired. He got tired down the stretch in 2022. He just didn't handle fastballs pretty much all year long, as he had in the past. I think he's a good defender, but he didn't progress. So my ears would be open. My ears would be open on Bohm. I told you I like Bohm.
Well, your ears are open on everything, except the first base.
If I think it's an upgrade, I have to think about it.
But your ears should be open on everything except the first baseman. I mean, that's just what it is.
My ears would be open on Ranger.
I'll tell you one thing. This conversation, there's been one person we haven't spoken about, which I think speaks volumes. That's the manager.
Look, were there moves in the postseason that made you scratch your head a little bit with the bullpen? Sure, but by the end, I felt like he was kind of grasping at straws because nobody was throwing the ball well.
I agree. I don't put anything on Rob Thompson. I don't. I don't see where. Give me Torrey. You love Torrey? Torrey's not winning that series.
I agree. I totally agree. Every manager can be picked apart after the fact. It's up to, you make a decision, you make a move. Now the player's got to make you look good, make his team look good, make himself look good. And, they just didn't perform. I don't put that on the manager. I'm not saying he was perfect, but gosh, I mean, he's presided over 3 teams that have gotten to the playoffs. And the last 2 had big expectations, and they didn't get where they need to go. I can't put these eliminations on the manager. I mean, like I said, no manager's perfect, but boy, he didn't get the performance that was going to make him look good.
No, and I mean, here's the truth of the matter. When you look at this whole thing, if your lineup is flawed, like people are looking at his decisions and they go, well, what about Estevez? And I go, he's trying to get a strikeout. I mean, you got the bases loaded. I get it. I mean, you go, all right, I got the top of the order up and I need a strikeout. I understand why he does that.
And, he goes to Hoffman early because it's been his best reliever all year. It's absolutely, kind of a desperate situation. And his best reliever all year had an ERA of 11 in the postseason. So, There's only so much, people are going to blame the manager. That's the nature of it. I do not blame the manager.
Yeah.
I just don't think they played well enough in any phase of the game, and that's why they're going home. Your players need to play well, and they didn't. And I don't know where the accounting is going to come, but I know John Middleton is going to, like I said, he's going to ask some tough questions, and I don't know where the changes are going to extend to, but I'm sure there will be changes. I just think it's going to be difficult to change that roster a ton because of the ages of some guys and the long-term deals.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I mean, the good news is you're pretty set pitching. You mentioned Ranger, but I'm good with the rotation.
Are you pretty set pitching though? I mean, so you got
Painter
Wheeler.
coming.
You got Wheeler, you got Nola. They're going to be a year older. I mean, I still think they're going to be very good.
I got Sanchez. I like what Sanchez did. I still believe in Ranger.
I like what Sanchez did. I don't know what Ranger's going to bring next year. It's his walk year. He doesn't look to be in great shape. To me, he needs to camp out in Clearwater and get with their strength and conditioning folks. And I think he cost himself a lot of money this year, potentially. I think that if he had extended those first 2 months, you're looking at probably locking him up this winter. He could potentially have cost himself a lot of money. I mean, I think they told you a little bit about how they feel about their pitching with the pursuit of Garrett Crochet at the trade deadline, and they did pursue him, and they did make offers. Maybe that's something also they'll look at this winter. But I think pitching. I think there's a lot of concerns in this team. They got to do some. Hoffman and Estevez are free agents. Who comes back? I don't know. But
you're always going to shuffle bullpen. I mean, that's just the nature of what that is. So you shuffle you're going to shuffle your bullpen, but you got Painter that you're going to look at. You're going to look at bringing in another guy because you still need some depth in the rotation. We saw how that bit them last year.
Absolutely. Walker. They couldn't find a fifth starter. So, they could not find a fifth starter after they had a couple breakdowns. And they're going to have to augment that with a 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th starter that you can put at AAA. I think Painter will probably pitch in the big leagues next year, but I don't think it'll be early, and I think he'll be on I know he'll be on an innings or a pitch limit, so maybe you'll see him in the second half, but I mean, you can't really turn him loose a year out of Tommy John surgery. You have to be very, very careful with him. I don't think you can make him a pillar of your rotation quite yet. You got to be careful. You got to build him up the right way so he one day can be a pillar.
Yeah, you're going to sit there and you still got. I mean, I hear you with Ranger, but you're going to add another starter, and you still got your front two, and Wheeler's is still in his prime, and. I'm more concerned about reshuffling the lineup, to be honest with you, and what you're going to do. Because, again, I can't just say it's baseball. Well, baseball, hot team, and the way we see all the division leaders and how they're in trouble and everything else. I can't just say that because the matchup, what got and befell the Phillies in that series against the Mets was the same thing that bit them against Arizona and has bit them against pitchers that bear down in October that will bear down and pitch with guile.
Agree. Teams are going to try to get them to chase, pitch off the plate, set them up so they chase, and try to have the Phillies hitters get themselves out, and they do that. They need to make some adjustments to that lineup. I'm just saying there's not a lot of places you can go. And if Bohm's on top of his game, he is a selective hitter who makes some contact and uses the whole field. So you have to decide if you're going to try to remedy him or shop him.
Yep, I feel you. Jimmy, Stakes, I'm sure we'll be talking a lot during the offseason.
Yep.
This is a tough one, buddy.
Yeah, it's always tough when the baseball season ends locally. There was a lot of promise for this team and a lot of expectations. I mean, I also believe that expectations can smother a team, and I felt like this team was a little smothered by expectations.
Totally.
Something they got to deal with a little bit better next year as well.
Totally. With you. Thanks, Stakes.
Hey, thank you guys. I enjoyed it all year.
Always good stuff. Jim Salisbury does such a great job.
Yeah, he does.
I'll tell you, man, it's going to be, we're still going to be feeling this one.
Yeah. How can you not?
This one stinks.
Yeah. This
Yeah.
one, I'll be honest with you. I like this team. Like, I know people get mad. Man. I still, one of the reasons why it hurts is that I like this team.
We love this team. We
I
talked
like
about
I like the players.
Yeah.
I like JT as much as he, was horrible and disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
I love Harper. I love Schwarber. Right? Everybody but Turner.
Yeah, they're likable.
But I love Bohm. I do. I'm a Bohm fan. Stott. I love those guys. But you're going to have to ask hard questions in the offseason.
Yeah.
Marsh got to go.
Yeah, he's got to go.
Yeah.
But even a guy like
pill for that locker room to swallow.
I know.
I mean, who's going to put water on the backs of people? He's really good at it.
I hear you, dude. I hear you.
But I mean, no, but he is part of that crew. They like him. It'll be a shake up in that locker room.
I know.
This is a dark time. Now we have to look to Eagles football with the way they've been looking.
Well, I mean, listen, it sets up for
They're
you.
going to go on a 3-1 run.
It sets up for you. I mean, you got the Browns.
Yeah, AJ
You
Brown's
get the
back.
Giants. It sets up for you. I mean, listen, this is what we do. This is the cycle. I saw the meme with the skeleton head and each team's hat. And it was, you saw that, Frazier?
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, that is the cycle.
But this is what we do. Like, Joey, come here. Show the jacket.
I mean,
That's it. Like,
this definitely
that
puts you in a better
jacket
mood.
is a great jacket.
Yeah.
All right? Show the jacket. Here we
Right
go.
behind BJ.
Yeah, look at that jacket.
Yeah.
Look at Joey, man.
Great.
That's a great jacket.
Where'd you get that, Joey?
Dude, someone was selling it on the side of the street. And it was
No
like
way.
$50.
$50 off the street.
Yeah.
Fell off,
It's a
I
bargain.
fell off a truck.
Dude, that's awesome.
That's a great jacket. Love this silver.
It's also indicative of how cold it is in here. Joey's in a winter coat, basically.
I've been cold. Yeah, I've been cold.
it was cold
whole
this
show.
morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking at this tweet from this dude,
Cold.
Andrew Claudio of New York. He says, you can't spell Philly without back-to-back L's, and he's got Knicks and Mets on.
I mean, we're just
What a
prone.
J.O.
We're the butt of the joke.
Yeah, we are.
We're the butt of the joke. We got
Bring it
nothing to
on.
say.
No,
Was
we
it
got
week 6 we see the Giants?
nothing to say.
Yeah.
I need that game.
It's after you got Browns and the Giants.
Yeah, I need that game.
Yeah.
They just beat down on a New
Yeah,
York
I
team,
hear you.
man.
I know you're
I mean,
sick.
We
Yeah.
got to be a Padres fan. I can't have the Dodgers or
No,
Mets.
I'm rooting Padres all
Yeah.
day.
Padres.
I can't. I love baseball, the playoff baseball, so I'll be watching. That's going to do it for us today. Man, tough
We're
one.
back at it tomorrow. We'll
Yeah,
feel better
Football
tomorrow.
Friday. Baldy be with us.
Yeah, that's
He'll
what we
lighten the
need.
spirits up. We need a Baldy, a little Baldy tonic.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Have a great day. We love you. Hang in there, man. We'll get through it like we always do. We'll see you in the morning.
We all silly like the mayor.